I'm continuing my conversation with my colleague, retired Brigadier Donnie Hall, Provincial Commander of Serious Corruption in Mpumalanga in South Africa. Donnie and I have been friends and colleagues for almost 30 years when we worked on the saloon serial killer case in Piet Retief. This case stands out for two reasons. There were so many valid suspects arrested and released, and what complicated the case was that there was no evidence of the killer on the crime scenes since he shot the victims from a distance. Now, Piet Retief is a rural town in the province of Mpumalanga in South Africa, and it was named after one of the leaders of the Great Track, a pivotal point in the history of South Africa. In the late 1870s, white settlers were harassed by Swazi and Zulus, and they had been fighting each other since 1750. The town was declared in 1884, and as with most pre-apartheid towns, black people lived on the outskirts. An informal settlement called Pozwa Village formed the backdrop to the killing fields of the saloon killer. Dwellings are built of mud or corrugated iron, and there are several shebeens or informal pubs. In June 1997, random shootings by a lone gunman were reported. Donnie, in 1997, you were a captain at the murder and robbery unit in Secunda. How come you were alerted to these shootings in Piet Retief?
Hi, Vicky. At the time, I was fortunate to have completed the investigative psychology course that were presented by yourself and also the advanced course thereafter. So I was trained in investigation of serial killings and serial rapes. And the murder and robbery unit in Secunda worked the Peter Tief area, which is about 200 kilometers away from our office. So we were informed that there was uh, shooting incidents where people were killed and robbed. And it was the mandate of the murder and robbery unit to investigate those kind of cases. Obviously, all murder cases that is linked to a series, like a serial killing case, is also the mandate of the murder and robbery unit. So because I was, at the time I was trained, I was contacted um, to look into this as well.
I remember you spoke about the advanced course. That was the one that was presented by Agent Robert Resler from the FBI, was a profiler.
That's great, Mickey. And also Timos Muller from Interpol was also presenting the course for us, together with
Yes.
yourself.
Now I remember just a specific bad murder. I mean, all murders are bad, but this one was at a shebeen, and the shebeen queen, Konzapi, was shot. So this was a sort of a carnage that they had in the shebeen.
That's correct. Mickey, they were sitting drinking in the Sabine, and suddenly two men walked into the Sabine. One had was wearing an army coat and a black balaclava. And without any warning, he produced a .22 rifle and shot Manda in the stomach. He pointed the rifle at Aaron and he shot him. And at that scene in the Sabine, three people were killed. Um, yeah, and that was quite tragic because there was no clear motive for the attack.
There was a certain person called Vuzi that was arrested. How did this happen?
Yeah, the information was that two people entered the Sabine and he was identified as the co-accused in this case. After obtaining statements under oath, the team then arrested him as well, detained him.
And then once he was detained, when it's still then by September, the murders continued, so it couldn't have been him. So what happened during the September murders?
Yeah, September of 1997, it was quite a busy month for him. So there was, on the 5th of September, a victim was shot and killed. And then on 25 September, Yvonne Nkambule was shot and killed. And then later on also, um, Paul Manana was attacked and Jacob Nkombeni was attacked. So between the 5th and the 25th of September, he was quite active and busy in that area.
And this was random, Donnie. I remember he just shot people walking in the street.
Yes, there was no clear motive. Some of the people were walking in the street, they will just come out shooting at them and run away. There was no clear motive or link that we can say we can link this to a dispute or something. It was just random shooting that occurred.
I remember this time in September you called me, but as I was getting ready to come down, you said that there was another suspect called Lala that was arrested.
Yes, for 3 months the killing stopped. Then in January 1998, a watchman at the shop was murdered and 2 men were shot on the road. Another one was shot in February. Nelly Mdluli and a friend were shot inside a hut. In March, Rebecca Manana was shot on the road. Then the killer moved to surrounding areas and farms. And Babili Ndaba was shot in a kraal. A kraal is an informal area in the farming community. We call it a kraal. He shot Andries Dogs, and in April he killed Mr. Mdluli and wounded also Zwelin Nkosi.
Now, Donnie, if I have it correctly, these cases were handled by the local detectives. Okay. But they finally realized something big is going on, and that's when they called you, when 16 people were already shot. It's a bit late, but why were you then finally called in?
At first, it's difficult for local detectives to make links between these cases. I think firstly because they're not trained, and secondly because of the workload of detectives. And different detectives on standby will visit these scenes. So eventually, when they picked up that the same rifle and caliber was used, they asked us to look deeply into this investigation. And that's what we did.
You know,
we
Donnie,
formed a task team.
This morning, I just read something like some detectives in South Africa carrying 400 dockets.
Yes, that is so. The detectives has got a heavy workload at some of the bigger stations.
Okay, so get back to our story. So that's funny they called you in, and that's when I joined you. And then we set up this formal serial killer professional operation. You know, I remember about the operational rooms.
Yes, we obviously we had to put up an operational room with in the area of Peter Retief. So we used the detective office to put up a full-time operational room where our victim profiles, photos, aerial photos, and everything that we needed. As we were trained on the course, we had to put this in operation in operation, and we worked from there.
I remember in this time as well, you finally discovered the theft of this rifle.
That's correct, Nikki. You know, when we start looking at these cases, we realized that obviously we're dealing with a .22 rifle that was stolen, and we obviously went to the archive and look at all the cases where a .22 rifle was stolen during housebreakings, and that's how we made a link to identify the housebreaking case where the firearm was actually stolen.
How come you called it a saloon killer?
Well, Mickey, the saloon is not like you call it like the saloon in America. The saloon
pub,
is actually a nickname. Yeah, it's not a pub. A saloon is actually a nickname for a .22 rifle. So the people that edit will call a .22 rifle a saloon. And so yeah, that's where the name came about.
I remember at that stage as well, since we were a little bit more professional then, we didn't have drones, but we had air support. So we could fly over the area, and then we had maps, you know, of the area, which helped us to identify where these killings took place. And at that stage, I think you called in the army.
Yes, Mickey, I remember that time there was no drone, so we had to rely on aerial photos to map the crime scenes out. And indeed, yeah, we had to call in special forces to assist us with intelligence, and we had guys from the army that came to assist us. They were also trained in intelligence, and also they were trained snipers. So they assisted us at that time in that area.
I think we also just need to tell our audience, you know, that at that stage, we couldn't leave detectives in Poza village because they would be recognized. So why specifically the army guys?
The army guys actually trained me, and there was quite a lot of in that area because it's close to the border. There is defense force activity in that area, so they would not stand out if they were moving around in that area.
Okay, so now we've got our undercover sniper operators in Pozwa village. And then we waited. What happened then?
Well, then in June 1998, there was another suspect arrested in Rwanda. You must know at the time it was everybody was under pressure, and suspects were identified because the community was also involved. And we arrested people based on statements that were obtained. A week later, 2 people were shot. So it was like a cat and mouse game for us. At the end of August, more people were shot over the weekend. And then, unfortunately, at the time, I had to go on a course.
And when you were on that course, he was arrested. How did that happen? Who arrested him?
Yeah, Mickey, unfortunately, I was not part of the arrest team, but my colleagues in the team executed the arrest. Yeah, the team that we established were of murder and robbery detectives that worked on the case, and also the local detectives. So one of the local detectives had an informer who gave information, and the informant pointed out the Lapin in Gandlamandla. And he was arrested in Shebeen, where after he confessed and he was interviewed, and they also pointed out the .22 rifle hidden in the house. He was brought in for questioning, and then after that he made a confession and the pointing out, and he was interviewed by himself.
And then they brought him to me. I remember that morning, the Secunda murder and robbery commander, Superintendent Koos-Fourie, called me that morning, and very calmly in a voice, he said, "We finally arrested the saloon killer, and I'm bringing him into your office." And I was very happy. So he brought him in, and I remember him sitting there, and Koos was just sitting in the background listening to me talking to this man. And I had to check if he fitted my profile. And he did. He was a paranoid, motivated serial killer. Thank you, listeners, for listening to our podcast. And thank you to our loyal subscription, Substack, and Patreon members. And your support is always an inspiration to me and to the detectives. Thank you.